Well, I'll say before we get started here, two things. First of all, I picked Modex because there's a fair amount of FUD surrounding it, and it's an advanced enough project with enough data on it that I can really kind of go through anything. Obligatory, all right. This is not financial advice and all that good stuff. And for the LinkedIn section, I'm going to use pictures because I don't want to dox the shit out of myself. All right, great. Well, we'll go ahead and get started. I have no idea how many people are here, but early bird gets the worm or whatever. All right, so first thing I'll cover actually is just some kind of etiquette things, really, about looking at projects. Um, First of all, think about why you're looking at the project. Like, is it a short-term hype flip? Are you comfortable holding it for a long time? You're not going to look at it, 3 quarters from now, that's when you're looking at it. And where did you find the project? Like, is crypto Twitter just exploding with mentions of it suddenly? Have they been talking about it for a long time, or did it appear today? Did it appear today because it just went live? Just do some thinking about that. Can really help you avoid some FOMO, really. The other thing is, did you find this yourself or are you listening to other people? If someone else suggested it to you, think about why. What are their motivations? Are they heavily invested? Ask them. If it's an influencer, what's their track record like? Do they frequently pump shitcoins? Has anyone warned you off the project? If they have, try and get some reasons and investigate them yourself. See if those concerns are valid. Don't just go charging into things if there are people warning you about them. Um, and the other big thing, and this is really kind of a Discord thing, is use your resources and be respectful of other people's time. Apes together strong. We've got a wide variety of skills, and you should absolutely leverage that. Do your own research, as always. Do some research before you post the project. And when you do post it, include some details. At a bare minimum, market cap and link to their socials. I am totally guilty of breaking this rule myself. So, that said, an exception might be something that's absolutely cruising and you're trying to minimize the time between researching it and executing a trade. So there are definitely exceptions to the rule. And another one is whenever you ask people to research, try and get specific parts of the project versus can you research this for me? Because people are going to be a lot more willing to spend 15 minutes on it than just researching the whole thing. And it's easier to coordinate and not overlap if you're each targeting an individual part. Um, and thank people for their help. We all realize that really we trade in information. It's a give and take. Make sure that you're giving something back, whether that's helping with the research, finding new projects, or just helping people keep up with news on relevant projects. People really appreciate that. And I think that you will find if you kind of stick to those things, people will be more willing to help you. All right, all of that lectured. We'll kind of start with a website. This list I've put together really isn't in any particular order. And on some projects, you may only use a few of them. On others, you may try and use all of them. Personally, for me, that really depends on the kind of investment it is. A short-term flip, I'm not going to go crazy about verifying the project. Whereas something, if I want to hold long-term or I'm thinking about putting a lot of money into, I'm going to really try and be obsessive about making sure that there aren't a lot of red flags. And sometimes good projects have red flags. So you have to weigh that against the information you have. All right. So the first thing I check for with a website is design quality. Like, does it look okay? Is it a modern style, or does it look like it's straight out of the 90s and the guy who designed the Space Jam website did it? Um, the other thing is looking over the language. It, check to make sure that it's appropriate for its target audience. Like right here, we have Modex BCDB is a middleware that fuses a blockchain with a database to create a structure that is easy to use and understand by developers with no prior knowledge in blockchain development. Uh, Translates into enhanced data security, secure data sharing, streamlining of operations, and maximum protection against cyber attacks. Okay, right there we have the target audience and use cases. So that's great. And in a single paragraph, we know all of that. What we don't want is just a bunch of marketing language that has no substance. Like, our mission is to emphasize corporate synergy with our partners in order to best advance common goals. I got nothing out of that. But what we want to hear is something like, we are proud to have worked with AVAX to implement a cross-chain bridge between Ethereum and Avalanche. Our roadmap had this as a Q1 goal, but with the excellent engineering team at AVAX, we were able to beat that by 2 months. Full of information. Tells me a whole lot. And there's nothing marketing in there. It's clear what they're telling me. And there are a few tools I use to look at websites too. We'll kind of go over the Modex website here real quick. I really like that there are a lot of pages to a site. It says that there's actually a lot of content to put up there. Early on in projects, they may be a little content light, but once a project has been out for a year or two, I'm really going to expect to be able to learn quite a bit from the website. And it should be easy to navigate. If I can't find the information I'm looking for on the website easily, generally means it's badly designed. Not a deal breaker, but especially for technical companies, I want to make dang sure they know what the hell they're doing. They should be able to hire a good web developer. They just should. And know what a good website looks like. So this is great. We actually have a use cases link. That's not super common. And even better, we have use cases, and we have articles on use cases, not just a list. And so we could start looking into these, and checking dates on them is also important. We can see, 2020, late last year. So we haven't had any articles in a while on these guys. Maybe they're elsewhere because, once you have your use cases set out, it's not like you need to update them constantly unless you're vastly changing your product. Next thing I do is there's actually a tool called Gotchu, which is a way to assess themes. So most websites these days actually do use a theme. Really what I'm checking for is to make sure that they're not pulling one of like 3 default WordPress free themes or something that obviously has no work put into it besides just like slapping 2 Legos together. And, honestly, prices on premium themes vary a whole lot, so I'm not worried about, the price of the theme as much as just making sure that they're not using, like, one of the default ones. And you can find that out by just Googling the theme. So we got the theme name here, and we know the author, so that's another good one. You can look up the author of the theme and see if it's a big company or it's a guy in a basement in China. So if we go here, all right, yeah, we can see here they're developing some plugins. They've got various page builders. We got a whole bunch of stuff going on here. So it's clear this is a quality product with the exception of them not having an SSL certificate, which is a little confusing. So we will, let's see here, click on the theme here. And we can see that this is a premium theme, well reviewed. That's a lot of comments, over 100,000 websites using it. So we're not worried about the theme. It's clear that they actually put work into their site. This is not necessarily a deal breaker. It's really something that gains weight in my analysis the older the project is. By the time your project is 6 months old, we should see a nice website. But if you just launched, you might have a 1 or 2 page website with basic information. That's not abnormal. And part of this is with experience, you'll learn to weight these. What is more important and what is less important? And I would say that that's really the biggest learning curve to fundamental analysis is just figuring out what matters the most in a given project because that's going to change project to project. If it's a really technical project, probably more weight on their website. But, if it's, I don't know, well, I can't think of an example right now, but if it's a really non-technical industry with just not a whole lot of information they need to put online, a simpler website's going to be okay. Uh, this is a bit more of a technical one, but sometimes can be really, really good. I go to Hippo Domains. So we just want to get the center part of the domain here. In this case, it's modex.tech. We don't want to slap the whole thing in an extension in. And want to do a Whois lookup. And brief explanation of what this is. So when companies register their domain with a hosting company, they have to provide some information. And the domain registrar also provides some information, like when was the domain purchased, how long was it purchased for, and really optimally we would love to see the company's information on there, like their contact information, address. But the fact of the matter is it's more and more common to have privacy on your domain, which means all that information is hidden. That's not a concern, and frankly it's really best practice at this point. So we can see a whole bunch of information here, and really the ones I'm most interested in are the creation date and the expiry date. And here's why. If you have a company and you're confident in it, you're going to buy your domain out 5, maybe 10 years. If you're only buying your domain out, it's cheaper to do that. So it's a sign of confidence. If this is going to be around, I'm not worried about spending extra money because 5-year plan, we know we're going to make that. Whereas if it's just registered out for a year, less confidence, but not necessarily an issue. Some companies do it that way. It's fine. Like I said, it's really the whole picture of as much of these things as you want to look at as you can. Virtually every single project I look at fails one or two of these, or one or two of the whole list, I mean. Um, Nobody's perfect. Everyone sucks at something. Uh, the other thing here is the registrar. So probably everybody knows GoDaddy at this point. Um, if the registrar is Google registrar, basically, and if it's a reputable company, like Bluehost or HostGator or GoDaddy or something like that, great. If it's some hosting company that you go to their website and it's just strange and it ends in .ch or .ru, like a Russian or a Chinese hosting company, well, is the company located in Russia? Well, I mean, it makes sense. But if they're a U.S. company with a Chinese hosting service, that might be a little bit of a red flag. There's no real reason to do that unless you're kind of running an operation where you're worried about your hosting company kicking your site offline, so you just host it somewhere where you can get away with anything. Oh, but that's really the only thing I'm looking for in the Whois records. Uh, so obviously, one of the first things I do is I pull up the white paper, um, which should contain certain kinds of information in almost every case. And in many, many cases, it will feel overwhelming. And really, that's a good thing. If you look at the white paper and you're like, holy crap, this is a lot of information and it's a technical company, I'm having trouble understanding it, that's really a good thing. We want a white paper to be like that. At a dead minimum, it should contain a technical summary of the project, use cases, or just what they're targeting, and tokenomics. If it doesn't contain those three things, that is a big red flag. It always should. And it really, if it doesn't, it means that they didn't do their white paper well. It's really that simple. Um, One exception I will make is some early companies only release a light paper. And a light paper can be, well, pretty light on information. Uh, if I see a light paper, I generally hop on their Telegram or Discord and I start asking questions. Like, when are you going to release your white paper? Why isn't it out yet? Where can I find some information on your tokenomics and use cases? Basically just fish around and figure out if they give you acceptable answers to those questions, or if you feel like you're having the wool pulled over your eyes, or things are murky. Uh, the other thing I'll say is that sometimes the technical summary won't be in an early version of the white paper or light paper because they're doing something proprietary and they do not want to disclose exactly how they are doing things or how their products work, or really their intellectual property, to competitors. It's a really competitive space, and I mean, it's widely known that just getting to market as quickly as possible right now is huge, and you don't want another company trying to do the exact same thing as you because you're just waving around exactly how everything is done. Um, in the white paper, I watch out for excessive filler, like tons of images that don't add anything, or several large paragraphs that communicate nothing useful, as a red flag, or tends to be a red flag for me. Um, and in a lot of cases, it's going to be over your head. I mean, it's almost always over my head, and there are two ways to deal with that. My method is, when I run into something I don't understand, I start Googling. And the first few times you do this with a white paper, it's going to take time. And you have to be willing to spend the time. It will save you so much pain if you are patient about assessing projects and you don't FOMO and get in before you have that information. If it's just really hard for you to do that, ask in Discord. Okay, so we'll take a look over the Modex white paper here just to kind of give you an idea. So a lot of the time what I will do is, there's going to be some information that's just like, why do companies need it? Well, that's probably pretty useful. But something like the protocol and networking layer, I don't really care about that. I mean, maybe if I'm really like excited about the tech, I'll look at those things. But don't read the whole dang white paper. Be selective. Try and figure out what's going to be useful to you, and follow up on that. And like I said earlier, we've got a ton of people with variety of expertise in Discord. Absolutely leverage that. It's especially helpful if you say something like, hey, these 3 pages of the white paper, I don't understand it all. Or the tokenomics, could someone help me out if that's, good or bad? So we will go ahead and, why do companies need it? Let's see here. All right, if blockchain turns out to be the best solution, it's time to ask which other stakeholders share the pain point. This is great. Basically, all good ideas, well, many good ideas, start with a question: what's frustrating to people or businesses? Like, who is really experiencing pain because of that, and what can we do to eliminate or reduce that pain? So let's see why on Modex. And there will be a copy of this stream that I upload after this is done. So if it is cutting out, there will be a copy you can watch after this, which hopefully records fine. So we'll take a quick look here. Will significantly help speed up the adoption of blockchain at enterprise level. All right, so this is a little marketing heavy. We're not getting a whole lot of substance about this. Here's some substance: making them blockchain ready in a matter of weeks. All right, we know that overhauling a whole business is not quick, especially if they have existing stuff and need to replace it with a blockchain. But here they can get the benefits of hooking up their existing systems to a blockchain without the time. And here we have some use cases. Data encryption, ownership, sync rules, record history. Now we want to see if there are any details on these things. So we'll scroll down here. All right. We've got another kind of explanation of how it works here, mixing blockchain and traditional databases. This is a really good word right here, agnostic. In simple language, it basically means that you're going to be able to use this with more than just Ethereum. They're really targeting any blockchain you want to work with. That's great. That means that they've broadened their market vastly and also hedged their bets. Because if you have a product that depends completely on Ethereum, and in a year everything goes tits up with Ethereum for one reason or another, not that that's likely, you're stuck. Your product is screwed because you have put all of your eggs in one basket. So here's kind of a bit of a architectural layout. This is the kind of technical stuff I want to see. This doesn't give us a whole lot of information, but to be honest with you, it's better than a lot of white papers that just are really light on any kind of explanation. So here's an explanation of what they mean about multiple types of blockchain solutions. Here's another thing we might want to see is basically who are they working with, why are they working with those people, and what does it look like. So here's a great example of what that looks like. Now, this white paper is super long, so I'm going to go ahead and get back before I put people to sleep here. If you have further questions about examining white papers, feel free to ask later and we can talk about them. All right, so the next thing I look at is I'm going to take a look at their social media. Because any company that's worth their salt is going to be putting stuff out at least once a week. It's really the worst possible thing I would ever accept is once a month. Like if they're doing a monthly summary, that's like the bare minimum. But really, I want once a week articles. And they should be about something other than just fluff. What they're doing with the project, or new partnerships, or just like information that's specific to their subject matter. So if they're posting stuff about their industry and why their product is important to that industry, that's fine, even though it's not directly to their product, just something freaking useful. And check their Twitter. So kind of what I'm looking for on Twitter is, like how long have they been here? Does it kind of match up when the company started? Do they have a decent amount of followers? And are they posting stuff? I mean, pretty straightforward stuff. It's a no-brainer. The other thing is, look at the comments. First of all, are there comments? Which their Twitter is pretty light on, to be honest. Nearly non-existent on, I may say. So that's a little bit of a concern. No one's really talking about them on Twitter yet. That can also be a good thing. Not many people have looked into this yet. Maybe it's a new project or just kind of under the radar. So it could be a good sign. Just compare it against the project and think about what that means. And always hop in the Telegram or Discord. Is it active? Are people's questions being answered relatively quickly? Are the mods and admins being polite and professional? Is there a significant or excessive amount of FUD or negativity? That's definitely a big warning sign. All right, so this one can be tricky. Investigate the team. Are there at least a couple people like the CEO and CTO listed on the website? Do they have their LinkedIn listed? Have they obviously made it easy to find them? If they have just no team listed or are completely anon, I feel very uncomfortable with it. And honestly, that's typically the end of me looking at a project. If they're have been around for any period of time and I can find nothing on the team members, there are valid reasons for that, but there are a million projects, and I find that that is risky enough that it's not worth it, and I can just go on to another project where I can learn about the team. Because, the people are building the product. If you can't tell anything about the people, how the hell are you supposed to tell anything about their ability to build their product? So then you can go hunting. If you don't see it on their website, every once in a while that happens. Just go to LinkedIn, look up their company. Do they have a company page? They should. If they have a company page, you should see their employees listed. Um, if you do find the team, uh, what is their work history? Is it relevant to what sort of project they're doing? Did they go to Yale or do they have a 2 year degree in bread mold observation? You know, it's relatively common for non C level, so like, CEO, CTO, CIO, whatever, to have their LinkedIn not public. So that's not really a concern for me. I'm really looking for the heads of the company to be observable. Uh, and once you find the CEO's page, scroll down through the profiles. Check skills and endorsements. Are other people saying they're good at the things they should be good at? Uh, Comments are fantastic if you can find people who've actually left comments, but it's, for whatever reason, really rare. I mean, I've seen pretty big name people with zero comments on their LinkedIn. Uh, but usually anyone who's been around long will at least have some endorsements. The other thing is Google the CEO. Can I find what I would expect about the CEO, especially interviews? I mean, if any company that's been around long you should be able to find at least one interview with, whether that's on YouTube or Google. And where is the interview listed? Is it a tabloid rag or a news source that is clearly legitimate? Stuff's posted frequently. Uh, that's really important. Hold on, let me see if I can get uno momento. I'm going to pull up the LinkedIn here on my other screen because I prefer not to dox myself. But in this case, here's what I'm looking at for the CEO of Modex in terms of, oh nice, I have two of those open. His experience. So this is great. I actually really like this about his company. Prior to getting into blockchain, they were a successful software company for 8 years. So 8 years of software background in a successful company, that's fantastic. That means they have, experience in the area. They know how the hell to run a business. Stuff that you can't necessarily see just from some experience working as project managers places. Let's see. I'm just pulling up LinkedIn on my other screen here so I can get his profile. Okay. Couldn't remember the dude's name to Google him. So we're going to go ahead and pull up the name. I'm not even going to type in the company in this case. All right, we've got pictures. He's speaking here. He's got his own website. We got Medium articles, interviews. So this is exactly what I want to see. And let's see here. Yeah, we've got multiple different interviews from places, and great, fantastic. I'm not going to dig into this too much, but that's the kind of thing you want to see on anyone who's been around long. And another thing, when you do get those interviews, it's worth it to listen to one and see if they're just talking fluff. Do they sound knowledgeable? If it's a technical project, are they saying things that anyone could understand, or is stuff going over your head? Stuff going over your head can be great. That means that what they're talking about takes work to know. It's valuable. And This should be an obvious one, but frankly, the number of projects that have no live product right now is pretty crazy. Not as bad as it used to be, but still pretty crazy. Um, Try the product if you can, even if it's not useful. Download it or whatever, and is it nice? Does it look like it's useful for whatever they're trying to do? Um, is there documentation on how to use it, or are you just expected to guess your way through it? What's the user experience like? And does their product look like it was designed by a blind gorilla with no thumbs? Quality. Um, and if the product is live but totally outside your skill set, ask in Discord and see if you can get someone more familiar with the subject to help you out. The next one we'll take on here is explore their partnerships. Anyone can list any freaking icons on their site and say they're partners. It means nothing that people have partnerships on their site. So we can see they're claiming AWS, Microsoft, MongoDB. That means I should be able to Google AWS and the name of the company. And here it's on the marketplace. That's great. And we can pull it up here. And great. All right. Awesome. This checks out. It's clearly the company they say they are. It's not some strange company that they've linked to just to have a link. Great. And do the partnerships have substance? Because I'll see a company that lists partnerships and they are actually partnered, but it's like the company tweeted about them that one time, or they're really just creating bullshit and calling it a partnership. Watch out for that. That's way more common than I would like it to be. One way to do that is whoever they're partnering with, provided it's another blockchain company. If it's Microsoft is probably not going to tweet about a new partnership. They just get too many partnerships. But if it's another small blockchain company or Chainlink or whatever, there should be a tweet or a Medium article on the partner side that says, "Hey, we're partnering with these people." If there isn't, not a deal breaker, but I really like to see that. That's a strong indicator that the partnerships are worth something. And if they claim to be part of some program, see if you can find evidence of them being in that program. The other one is backers. A lot of places will list like VCs that have invested in them. Like for instance, if they say that Pantera Capital is backing them, head over to Pantera Capital's website, see if they're listed as a client. And not all VCs will list their clients or only list a subsection of their clients. Really not a deal breaker, but it's one of those things. Really just rolls back to verify everything you can. Verify that they're not being dishonest. Sometimes that will be missing for one reason or another. Go to their Telegram. Ask them why it is not there. There may be a valid reason. Maybe they just forgot to remove it and the partnership ended. Again, just verify. Trust but verify. Or, as in the blockchain case, don't trust, verify. So, I think everyone does this one, hopefully. But check wallets, liquidity, and trading activity. Can you buy the token on something other than Uniswap to avoid eating fees? If you can and the price there is equivalent, it's almost always worth buying it somewhere where you're not going to pay $50, $60 on each end of the trade. It's important to get your tokens off of a centralized exchange, if you use one, as quickly as possible. They get hacked with alarming frequency. One of the beauties of blockchain is custody of your own funds. Leverage that. Do that. Don't let other people have control of your money. And if you go over to DEX tools or similar, does the liquidity seem appropriate for the market cap? Can people actually trade this thing without tanking the price 20%? So I actually know the answer to Modex here. This has been a difficult one to research because there have been a few red flags with it that worry me. I mean, look at this. There's only 20 ETH, $70,000 of liquidity. That's freaking nothing. That is concerning right there. So what I did was I went to the Telegram and I started looking, seeing if there's any mention of liquidity, and I found it. I found a post by the CEO, and the CEO was detailing that they really want to prevent people from pumping their coin. They haven't integrated all of the tokenomics yet. They've got plans to do that. So this is, in this case, I would say a smart business move. They're trying to prevent people from just exploding the coin before anyone can buy in, because it would be a problem for their tokens use case if the price just blew up 9,000% overnight. Not only does that look kind of sketchy to potential partners when they're not really 100% complete with their product yet, but partners looking to buy in to either get discounts or one of the other use cases might be a little dissuaded if it's just like all over the map and clearly, manipulated. So in this case, I think this is actually a smart business move. But, that's my own judgment. It could go either way. The other thing is, are holdings excessively concentrated in a single wallet? Is a single wallet holding 90% of the supply? Why? Sometimes you can find out through the tokenomics, and other times you're going to have to ask in Telegram. And obviously people can lie. So try and verify what you can. All right, here we go. So to look at the holders, you want to go over to the token tracker. We can see that there is a fairly large number of holders, 7,300. That's a pretty decent number for a project this small. So you can start thinking about why. Like, why might there be holders? Do they have a ton of partnerships, or does their token use case really demand a large number of holders? Or alternatively, have they done like 7 huge airdrops, which could be a huge red flag in and of itself. But just make sure, if you're concerned about this, you've at least done some footwork on why, if it's a problem. So we're going to go over to holders here, and we can see that there's 36%, nearly 37% of supply in a single wallet. Why is that? Well, both from the tokenomics and from asking on their Telegram, I know that this is a reserve wallet, and we can see here that the last transaction was 435 days ago. So pretty clear they're being honest about that. And a reserve wallet might be part of their marketing funds or whatever. So money might move out of it occasionally. But you're not going to want to see money moving out of it frequently to, like directly to Uniswap or something. That would be concerning, because any company that's worth its salt is going to have a budget, and they're going to take probably a big chunk out every like half year or quarter or something like that. We don't want to see weekly movements out of a reserve wallet or even a marketing wallet. That means they don't know what they're doing. The other thing is, look at the trading activity on DEX tools. Like, does it make sense, or is there, like, look at the trading log down here. Are there frequently like timed buys? Like here, this happens all the time, and thank you for Snoo to bring this to my attention. We have these 2 ETH buys and these 0.5 buys, and they're actually patterned, and that is frequently bot activity. Now, this has happened with 2 large projects I've invested in. Clear bot manipulation. And sometimes with really good projects that have good fundamentals, it's actually whales intentionally manipulating the price to accumulate more at a low price. Not unheard of. But again, could be a bad sign. So kind of make some mental notes to yourself on the pros and the cons so far and weigh those against each other, because nothing is ever going to be perfect, and you just kind of want to weight the negatives against the positives. And at this point, we've kind of returned to thinking about why you're looking at the project, which again is really, really important. And one of the things that I look at is I kind of look inward. How am I feeling about it? Am I exiting another trade for this one? If so, why am I leaving that trade? Does the prior trade has anything fundamentally changed about it? Why do I feel like I've lost faith? Why do I feel the need to move that money? And if it's because you're scared and there's no valid reason, or you're really excited about this project, really think about if that's a good idea. Trading on emotions will screw you so frequently. Is it emotional or a logical decision? And on either side, do fundamental analysis. Decide if there's fundamentals to back up your decision.